feel weak. Feel weak. Feel like I want to just give up. Feel searching in you. And then you're just strength. You're just pulling the shit out of you. You get that motivation to not give up. Not be a quitter. You fall flat in your face. Till I collapse, I'm spilling these raps. As long as you feel it till the day that I drop. You'll never say that you're not killing them. So when I am not, then I'm stop petting them. And I'm not hip hop, and I'm just not Eminem. Criminal thoughts when I must stop sending them. Women no guard and webs and shit rock. Then them adrenaline shots. The penicillin cannot get the insulin to stop. Oxycillin just not thrilling them. We're no cop killing and hip hop killing. Minimal swat. The god millions of apocalypse in us. With me, fear and not you, fear it. I showed you the spirit and God lives in us. We're alive, there's the shine. This is a miracle. Not just the product pop is enough. Listen, listen, this is the plot. Listen up. This is for guys. This does not give a fuck. Goes up, the lights blow out. Good. Okay. I think everything is in place. And 5 seconds in, and I'm already seeing a problem. That doesn't take long. Hey! Easily fixed. Thank God. Okay. Alright. Alright. So that's all up and running. Those... I don't need this open. We do have me alone right now. We will wait a bit, which gives me time to do any editing that needs to be done. I don't think there's anything that needs to be edited. I don't know why there's that there. Screw it. I'm just going to leave that alone. Playlist. This does relate to Digimon D&D, so add that there. This is a full stream, so add that there. This does not have altered content. There is no paid promotion. Tags. I do apologize to anyone who chimes in later on. This is the joys of doing YouTube stuffs. Yeah, I have a lot of stuff to do. Streams. Ding. Yeah. And the brain's already blanking and it's been 2 seconds. Oh joy! Great. Yeah. Entertain, because technically it's not a game, so technically it doesn't matter if not tagging. So, comments check. Sort by newest check. That's one part done. Now just save that before I continue onwards. Live chat check. Participant mode, anyone check. Live reactions, I have to include that. Is slow mode? No. Call. Easy dude. This, kids, is why you don't let yourself slip into abject insanity.
You become like me. Don't become like me. It's just not worth it. It's just not worth the mental instability. The more you know. Alright, get it. We had one. We lost one. Oh well. Can't be helped. Oh, apparently my girl's gonna be joining us eventually. Poor soul. She isn't tortured enough. Okay. I think I'll probably wait 30? Let's wait till 30 before we start up. Or not start up, start talking about stuff and stuff. Yeah. Wait, I don't think it's going to take her freaking 24 minutes to make a hot drink now I think about it. That might have dawned on me a little late. So yeah, we'll wait a little while. I have no clue how long exactly we'll wait until X amount of time, I suppose. So yeah, I don't think there's gonna be too many people who chime onto this. I don't think. I kind of doubt it. Hopefully, some people chime on, especially those who are like they would like to jump onto this. I do hope they at least watch it if they're curious about joining in. Um, Honestly, I'm gonna say this a few times. There's a reason why. I don't want you capable of forgetting it. I want it deep, deep in your brain. There are not many rules at all. Yeah, honestly, when it comes down to that original rule vid I did months ago, I think, I'm just going to tell you right now, I basically took half of those rules and took them out back and shot them. You heard me. I reduced the rules by a good bit. There's some stuff, though, that are added in here. Some probably not as interesting or compelling sounding as others, maybe. There are other things, but I'm just going to tell you right now, when it comes to rules, I really didn't add much of any compared to the amount that I just cut out. Like, if I had to give kind of a ballpark guess on the numbers, I'd say probably what little I had, I took more than half out. I took more than half of the rules out of it. Yeah. It was quite a lot of butchery and rule cutting. It was a lot. I'm not sure if I want to start the conversation yet. Especially since supposedly my girl is going to jump in, which would at least give us a viewer. So I will probably wait until she gets here. I have no clue how long that will take. Not a clue at all. So let's see. I literally am going through a list in my head. It's already blanking in some ways. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Yeah, I'll probably. I almost want to just wait for her to get here before I start, just for the sake of it. I think what I'll end up doing is I wait until the 15 marker, and then from there I'll like start going into everything. Uh, I am going to preface this though with this very single sentence though. This is very important here. I'm not going to go into every single spell that's been altered or buffed. I'd be here way too damn long. I got plans later. I'm spending time with family later, so we're not going into every single spell that's been altered. We'd be here way too damn long. Ah. So that's just something you need to be warned of right from the gate. I'm not going to go into every single spell that has been buffed. It would be too long. If I go into every spell that's tweaked or buffed, it just would be too long. We'd be here the whole day. I make long enough videos during reviews because of difficulties chopping stuff down, especially trying to decide what's more important than the other. I already have enough difficulty with that. We don't need to add this to it. We don't. No one wants that. I probably should have put on a hat because of my absolute batshit hair, but oh well. Here we are. Oh joy. I wish I slept better. Oh well. An everyday problem for me. Well, every second problem for me. Blech. Probably should put on some music, but despite playing royalty-free music last time, I already got a hit for a copyright. Yeah, you heard me right. Copyright fee. Supposedly royalty-free music got me copyright hit for a song that's, let's be honest here, I don't believe that's your song for 1 second even. Yeah. But, oh well. I'm going to tell you right now, no music, that means. Which means you have to put up with my mug and my yakking. And for that, blame YouTube. I'm not gonna go into any rules yet because, like I said, we're not at the third. We're not at the 15. But I am gonna get some like small things out the way. I want to make something very clear that I don't feel like I did a great job last time of explaining. I feel like I did hit on it. I don't feel like I really drove it home. You don't need to know a damn thing about Digimon or D&D. You don't. At all. You don't need to know a damn thing. Not at all. I need to know Digimon because I'm the DM. I need to know Digimon. You don't need to know a shitting thing. I need to understand D&D. You can learn as we play, though. And if you're having enough fun, that learning process is going to be a lot easier than if you weren't having fun. So just keep that in the back of your mind as you watch this whole thing, as you watch this thing in your own tabs, as you consider playing this game. You don't need to know shit. Here's the limit to what you need to know. Do you want to have fun? Yes or no? That's it. The truth is that honestly, you barely need to bring a backstory to the table, honestly. You really don't. You can give me a very minimalist backstory and I can easily expand it, bloat it, and make it something big. I can do that pretty easily on my end. Alright? While my players did give me some really nice backstories, even they can tell you I have added a shit ton of stuff. I've added lots. I've added a good bit of tweaking. Okay, and I do mean a good bit. Like hefty. Okay, so try to remember that. That honestly, genuinely, you don't need to know D&D. You don't need to know Digimon. You can come to this with absolutely zero experience of both. And anything Digimon info you need, I will give you. Any D&D knowledge or lessons you need, as Smab has proven by teaching my girl 10 times better than I ever have been able to, Smab can teach you every shit you need to know. And I do mean everything. Everything. And it will almost guaranteeably stick. It has stuck for my girl. It will stick for you. I can promise you that much. Now, when it comes down to how to play the game, you don't need to worry about that. Okay, you're going to get taught that. You will be taught that, and you'll have easily the best D&D teacher there is. Point blank, matter of factly. All right, you will have the best of the best teachers for it, factually, legitimately. As Smab has already proven, I have tried to teach my girl some stuff, and none of the things I really taught her stuck, and none of it really it compelled her or interested her or grabbed her attention the way Smab has. Smab, oh my lord, oh my lord, Smab did damn good. Within, I think, about 2 sessions, Smab had already taught my girl and got lessons to stick 10 times better than I ever have. Ever. Now, granted, my girl's going to lie to you and lie to herself and say that I've taught her something. I ain't teach her shit. I ain't teach her a damn thing. Nothing I have taught her has stuck. Not a single thing. But with Smabsy, though, it is all stuck. Okay? And we had someone, and we lost someone. Oh well. It's a bummer. Unfortunate. We're down 1, soldiers. Ultimately speaking, there are certain things. Oh. I hope the echo isn't going. Speaking of who, my girl is here. With a hello. And a hello to you. Alright. Now that we've gotten that away, we've made sure to emphasize that you don't need to know Digimon. You don't need to know D&D. And we've used our example for it. Let me just make something very, very clear here. That I've already stated, and I'm going to state again just to emphasize. There are not many rules. In fact, there are actually fewer rules than the original rules video that I made once upon a time ago. Fewer by a lot. Here's some examples. The overall freaking trauma. That's been gutted. Stress. Gutted. The overall spirit stat. Gutted. That's our starting point, where I've already gutted multiple rules. Now, have I replaced them with anything? Not really, no. Here's the rules that, as they stand, okay? If you're someone out there who's like, this breaks D&D rules, you bet your ass it does. And it's meant to do that for the sake of entertainment. Genuinely speaking, I've basically redesigned this in so specific a mentality, a specific reason. Make it fun for stupid. I wanted to make sure that no matter what, no matter your overall knowledge or non-existent knowledge of Digimon or D&D, that you could jump into this and have a good time. That's the whole design. That's where all my ideas, all my thought processes were. Here's some small stuff. These are things that are probably not going to come up too terribly often, except for when you do them. We're going to start with short rests. Here, short rests are not a hit die. They're just a blanket half your health back and half of your spell slots back. I can't remember if I said rounded down or up. So I do apologize for forgetting that detail. But yeah, basically, it's just a guaranteed half of your slots and half your health. That's what short rests give you. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, there's been, I wouldn't say a huge change to the overall Digivolution types. It's still the same ones. It's just there are small tweaks to them flavor-wise and also in execution. Now, you do still need to pick a Digivolution type. That much is still something you do need to do for your Digimon. I do request that you do it ahead of time, both just for creating a story and mental image of the Digimon, but also because of the simple fact that if you decide to bring up, hey, Smab, I would like to have some art done of my Digimon, if you bring it up to her, giving her more clear of a mental image makes her job easier. Giving her more to work with makes it easier and allows her creative pistons to start firing off. Now, when it comes down to it, I have made so that you can change your Digivolution type later down the line. But I did add one tweak to it. I decided to make it so you're not locked into that for the entirety of the whole campaign. But you still need to come talk to me so this way we can make it happen, is the thing. If you come talk to me, we can change your Digivolution type. I can make it happen really easily. If you don't believe me, just look at my girl who's gone from a Digi-Metal evolution typing to Corrupt evolution typing. Really easy. Barely had to do anything. I mean, it doesn't help that they both got themselves corrupted due to my due to me forgetting basic rules, but yeah. From my girl, yeah! Exclamation mark and a smiley face for y'all. Ultimately, making you changing your Digivolution type is effortless on my end. My only thing is that if you already have your champion evolution and the art's already done for it, and you've already gotten it done by Smab, my whole thing is I want you to stick with it. That's not it's not really a rule. It's more that it's a personal request from me, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's also a personal request from Smab herself to just not, once an art is finished entirely, please don't force that to change as well. That's why, even though Saber Lucimon was technically from when Lucimon was going down the Digi-Metal evolution, I didn't want to just throw away all of Smab's hard work. So instead of having the change in evolution type undo what's already been done artistically, instead, it's just from Ultimate onwards where you're going to see this change. I'm going to do the same way for yourself. The reason why is because I don't want to break the ever-kind Smab who's been merciful and kind enough to do all of this artwork. She's been busting her ass, and the first person who tries to delete the work she has done, I'ma find you in the streets. It ain't gonna be pretty. It's gonna be some thug shit, okay? Believe me, I might look like a cracker, but I fight like a thug. Actually, I think a thug might even be kinder than me. Ultimately, though, just remember that Smab busts her ass. By the end of every project, she's typically in pain, but loves doing artwork, and that's why she pushes through the pain. So out of respect for that, we won't alter anything she's already finished. We'll just have it happen from there forwards. Now, when it comes down to evolutions, here are the types. We have the very complicated, weird orphan child, who I'm not going to necessarily heavily advise, but you can do so if you want. We do have to do some flavor talks, but we can make it work. And that's both Biomerge and Crest evolutions. Now, I list these two together because they're actually very similar for a giant chunk of time. for both crest evolutions and biomerges, from about champion to ultimate, what boosts you're getting are pretty minimalist. And then they start to actually pop off when you're at the mega levels. Now, in the cases of biomerge, it starts off with you just having, on your champion level, +1 to stats. Ultimate level, it's just 1, 2 stats and AC. Thank God there's that mega level. Because otherwise, it'd be really boring. What you ultimately get for biomerge when you get to mega level is you get a grand total of 2 to all stats, 2 AC, you get a feat, and you get to have 1 extra massive move. Now, here's the thing: is we do have ultimate moves. Smash uses them a couple times already. One of our players, has not done it yet. I'll give you 2 hints. Lucy, Mon. So we still don't have an ultimate for that one. An ultimate move for that one. But if you decide to go biomerge, you're going to have 2 ultimate moves instead of the 1. Oh, yes, you. Yes, you still have to come up with an ultimate move, especially for Valhallamon, who still doesn't have an ultimate move. For now, Valhallamon can still... Oh, wait, no. Oh, yeah. Never mind. Bardona. I forgot, you do have an ultimate move. It's just not what I was expecting for an ultimate move. I forgot, she decided she wanted her ultimate move to be very much a healing support thing. I forgot. Please forgive. I'm sorry. Ultimately speaking, now that I have put foot in mouth, oh joy. Let me just get to the rest before I can embarrass myself further. Ultimately, if you choose biomerge, you're going to get 2 ultimate moves. Okay? Now, if you go with crest evolutions, while you're not going to get 2 ultimate moves, you are going to basically get a further stat increase of +3 to everything, 2 to AC. Probably doesn't sound like much. Ultimately, another thing is that, honestly, for stuff like Digimetal, a large chunk of your boost is decided by whether or not the metal is being incorporated offensively or defensively. If it's incorporated as a weapon, your offensive capabilities are what's going to increase, as well as base stat increases. Whereas if you put a defensive twist on it, it's going to be defensive increases and some stat boost. As my girl was experienced, it's really not much. Like, at all. Yeah. It's a 1 to all stat, if I remember correctly, and for first evolution, that's kind of it, aside from a health boost. But it really isn't much. When it comes down to it, the other one, armor evolution, that one is very similar to metal evolution, but instead of getting a +1 to all stats and then a boost depending on offense or defense, with armor evolutions, the overall stat increase is very dependent on the armor itself. So armor and what their crest symbol attached to them will define what your stat boosts are, which is kind of limiting. I don't like limiting my players. I don't like it. Generally speaking, though, it is probably the one that is the most flexible, though, because it's not got a element limit. Whereas typically when you choose an element, that's your element. In the cases of armor evolutions, you are taking on the element of the armor and crest chosen. So, like, for example, crest of courage, you're now fire. Crest of friendship, you are now lightning. You get the drift. I mean, ice can also work there, but I digress. Now, Another evolution typing, though, is as we've got now a corruption. Now, corruption, here's the thing, is corruption is not limited to just negative or dark. Corruption can work if you're someone who wants to take on more of a light or angelic form. It is corrupted light, basically. So if you've ever wanted to see what good taken to such extremes that it becomes evil would be like in a game, you can definitely do that here. When it comes down to it, you could pretty much look however you want, regardless of what evolution you take, honestly. But I digress. Corruption types work with this. Is the higher their corruption, they gain a boost to overall attack and damage. Now, the thing is that they don't get really any increases to, like, stats. Like, they don't get a +2 to strength or what have you. What they do have, though, is they do have a boost to their overall attack and damage output. Now, the higher they build their corruption, the higher they, increase their corruption, the stronger that'll get. Now, eventually they will start to take a d6 of damage per turn. But by that point, they're utilizing 100% of corruption, which means they have a pretty high, massive increase to their attack and damage. So while they are losing some health each turn, they are going to be dishing out some violent amounts of pain. I have to assume that the reason my girl chose to choose corruption was just because violence. I have to assume. Ultimately, there is also spirit evolution. Now, spirit evolution is probably the most complicated of the lot because its boosts and benefits are very much depending on which form you're in. If you're in your human evolution, you're just getting a 1 to your stats. If, however, you're running the... and she admitted it, guilty. Called it. If you're rocking the beast spirit evolution, instead of having a +1 to all stats, what you're getting instead is 2 feats. By the time of later on, I will surprise my player who has that with what they'll get later down the line, because we got a ways to go before then. Ultimately, there is also death evolutions. Now, at first, I don't feel like I covered them very well. And I also don't feel like I explained how it worked very well either. For death evolutions, dying is beneficial. You heard me right. In death evolutions, dying is actually beneficial. No, really. Because I'd be starting a new player off at a lower level than my pre-existing victims and cohorts. Yeah. Basically, you'd be starting off at a grand total level 2. That's where you'd be starting off at level 2. I can go level 1 if you would rather that, but that's the number that we'll work with for our placeholder. Because you'd be starting off at level 2 with death evolutions, basically the first time you would die, you come back with full health and you gain a small boost to your stats. Now, as you get later on levels, the number of times you can die is going to increase by 1. By the time you're caught up with them, you're going to be able to die roughly 5 or 6 times, which gives you 5 or 6 chances to boost your stats. Now, another thing is that for death evolutions, whereas the others have to use a spell slot in order to digivolve, you would be using basically be using like death tokens. Basically, that's how it works. Is you would have death tokens, and that those would accumulate, and eventually you could use those death tokens to evolve. Basically, are we going to share? Nandayo? Oh, apparently she's going to share this. And suddenly I feel sheepish. I don't know why. I'm happy, but sheepish. ultimate, uh, ultimately speaking, uh, Death Evolutions, Corrupt Evolutions are technically, yes, the strongest, technically speaking. Uh, that is for a few reasons. One, because technically speaking, a lot of the other ones take a little time before they shine, which is kind of a bummer, but it's just kind of, it was unavoidable. I would have had to do so much mental gymnastics just to make it so that this way this functioned. That if I were to put them all on even footing and make them all strong right from the start, it's so much mental gymnastics, so much hyper bullshit that I'd have to pull out my ass so much. Like, I would grow gray hairs in mass. So instead, I've ultimately just decided, yeah, they're going to be a little slower start, but they'll get powerful by the end of it all. Now, when it comes down to it, I wouldn't say this is a huge change, really. I just don't feel like I covered it properly is the problem. So one thing that you can't do, you can totally do if you want to do. You want to play a half-orc? You can play a half-orc. No, really, if you don't want to have your character be a human in Digimon and you would rather it be an alien, fantasy race, we can make that happen. Yeah, no, we really can. It's not hard at all. I do have some small requests. This is not a rule. This is a request from me. Okay? It's just a request. I would greatly appreciate it if whatever design decisions you go for the way your Digimon looks, my only request is that you don't go Rule 34 with it, okay? If it's outright hentai or borderline hentai, please don't. But I can give you an example of how far we can go with it. For those who already know Digimon, let me find the right Digimon. I just typed out the wrong one. Oh joy. That was a penis. That was a... Alright. Here's my only thing, okay? We can't go Rule 34 with it. Okay? We can't go Rule 34 with it. But when it comes down to it, we can go at the most bare minimum. We can totally go freaking Venusmon level of adult-like. We can totally go for that. And if YouTube decides they don't like that, kiss my ass. The facts are is I'm not going to really try and limit your creativity or what all you can or cannot do. If you want to freaking have... Hold on. You want to have freaking Dianamon up in here. I'll eventually get this. Don't fight me. Come on. There. You want to look like freaking Venusmon? We can do that. No issue. Like I said, as long as it does not arrive at outright Rule 34 or hentai or porn, we can pretty much work with whatever you're kind of wanting to make happen. We can pretty easily do it. It's nothing really. It really ain't nothing. It's pretty easy, especially on my end. When it comes down to it, honestly, that's the only kind of, I wouldn't say rule, but it definitely is a request for a line. No outright Rule 34. But anything Venusmon, we can do. I am going to make the personal request that you do not Do not use pre-existing Digimon. Not because you can't, not because there's any rule against it. It's because I don't want you ever feeling like you have to follow a specific Digivolution line or like you have to use a existing Digimon. If you want to freaking play the game as a Gomamon who digivolves into a Greymon, then into a Magnet Angemon and ends a Malomyotismon, we can do that. No, that's not a canon Digivolution line in any step, at any form there. I do not care. We're about fun here, not canon. So yeah, ultimately speaking, that's something to remember. Now, when it comes down to, there are one Digivolution line I did skip over, and I'm sorry about that, but there's a reason. I myself, while it's not a no, you can't use it, it is one of those things that has a lot of caveats, and that's DNA digivolving. DNA digivolving, quite genuinely here, okay? DNA digivolving is something that's done between two humans and two Digimon, and for once I'm not doing a birds and beasts joke. Somehow. Ultimately, this is something that's very important, is that this type of evolution is done when either a couple of megas, a couple ultimates, a couple champions even, and a couple humans. Dun. You heard me right, sometimes humans get involved in that combination too, yeah. That's not, thankfully, that common. But the human does play an important role. The thing is that DNA evolution is something that has to be agreed on. I myself will not force it, and I also won't let it be forced either, because then it's no longer DNA evolution anymore. Then it's just a waste of everyone's time and kind of scummy. So now, I, like I said, won't force it. It's not something that's going to get forced, and it's not going to be allowed to be forced either, especially since that defeats the whole purpose. DNA digivolving, when you dumb it down, is basically two Digimon and two humans, both of which who have very close bonds with each other, weaponize each other's bond to basically gain new power. Basically, if we cut the bullshit, it's Super Saiyan. Okay, let's just cut the bull. It's Super Saiyan, okay? It's literally just Super Saiyan fusion. That's it. It's literally just fusion. It's literally it. Sorry. There's not much more to say. Ultimately, it is the fusion of Digimon and humans who have very close, strong bonds. An example being like that of, say, Wargreymon, Melgarumon, Tai, and Matt, for an example. If you've ever watched the original show, if you have not watched the original show, that is fair. You don't need to memorize none of that shit that I just said. You just need to know that it's an example of it. And if you decide to watch it, you'll know to look for it as an example. Ta-da! Welcome back, my dear. I hope the sharing went well, or at least didn't light everything on fire. Honestly, DNA evolution is something that if you want to do, you have to talk with the other person you would like to fuse with. For example, if my girl and Smab wanted to do a DNA fusion by the end, I would need them to not only talk to each other and come to a unanimous agreement, but I also need them to come to a unanimous agreement on how it functions, how it looks, and how it forms. And on top of that, in that fusion form, they would have to agree on pretty much every action they take in that battle, in that form. I'm going to assume the hope so is, wait, you want everything on fire? Apparently she wants everything on fire, people. Doc. When it comes down to it, there are, like I said before, lots of changes to spells. There's too many to go over. There's too many, just too many. Like I'd say more than half of the first level spells have some kind of buff or tweak to them. So, and she sent an emoji. I have no clue. I'm too tired to think. Ultimately, when it comes down to it, there's really just not a lot of rules. There just isn't. Um, from the JDMR, hello, good sir. Echo question mark? There shouldn't be. Ah! And I'm almost dropping shit. Let me double check. We got a hello to the JDMR from my girl. The fuck? My girl's been here for so long, and she never once informed me that there was an echo. Not this whole time. I think what I end up doing is I wait some. Well. Okay. Well, you weren't going to see this. Now you're going to see me in PJs. Blame my girl who has suckered us all. Oi. Hopefully, if I shove this in, that should fix the echo problem. Okay. Test. And then from there, I'll start going. Test, test. 1, 1. Test, test. 1, 1. Okay. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. I think I fixed the echo problem. Taka taka. Pam pam. Evil, by the way. You could have informed me that long ago, but did not. Evil. My girl can be evil. Diabolically evil. I've completely forgotten where I was. Le fuck. Oh, yes, spells. So yeah, lots of spells have changes. I'm not going to go into all of them. It would be way too long. Especially since, especially first level spells, pretty much every single spell has a tweak or a buff. No clue why this mapster is saying sorry. It was my girl who had this whole... She's been here since, the freaking 10-minute marker. And it has had 39 minutes to tell me that there was echo. And said nothing. I can't be really mad. It's funny. It's funny how long she had me played. Just... Bravo, sweetie. Bravo. No, for showing up as... no worries. No problem whatsoever. Okay. Now, I'm going to kind of recap so far what we've gone over so far, just to kind of help anyone who tries to come in later kind of get a gist of it. I've gone over the fact that you don't have to play as specifically a human and a Digimon. You can play as an alien or as a freaking fantasy race. Now, the thing is without going into too much spoiler detail, I will say that that even includes you don't have to be from Earth per se, in a general sense at all, or even from this timeline. Ultimately, I'm going to tell you right now, there is no class limitations at all. You want to play as a class, play as that class. You want to play as a druid, we can make it work. We're going to have to do some flavor tweaking, but we can make it work. You want to play as an artificer, easily done. There's no limitation on class, and there's also no real limitation on like subclass either. The only limitations I really have are no to homebrew for one specific reason. That's how shit gets broken. And we don't need it. This thing is already broken in every direction. Probably don't add to it. Especially since you don't really need something OP or intentionally OP, because there's no intent to kill you. There's no intent to kill your character off. Especially if you're someone new. It goes from no intent to kill you off to no. Now, sure, I do kind of want you to sweat a little bit during some fights. Yes, that much is true. But pretty much every fight I've made is with the idea of my players can do it. It's not impossible. And that's intentional. Now, when it comes down to stuff like Digivolutions, there's really no limitation, and you can change it. You just have to come talk to me, and we can get it changed pretty easily. Again, our dear artist, the ever merciful, kind Smab, who has done legitimately pretty much every micro ounce of art for this. Please, once you have chosen something and you have started to use that form, leave that form alone. Even when you change, we'll just have you change the stuff that comes afterwards, the stuff that hasn't been drawn yet. Because again, it does cause her pain to do the stuff that she has done every time. So if she does finish something, I am not having her redraw something from scratch. It won't happen. Threaten me as much as you like. Won't happen. I'm not going to make her redraw anything that's already finished and finalized. Even more so if you've also already been using it, especially so. It's just not happening. I'm not torturing her by having her re-go through all this stuff. Because technically, she doesn't need to draw anything. She has no obligation to do any of the drawing she's done. She's just done so out of the goodness of her freaking heart. So, just keep that in mind. Now, there is no real limitation on any of these evolution types. You can pick whichever one sounds fun to you. My only request is don't ever feel limited, like you have to do existing canon evolution line. Because you don't. You never do have to do that. If you want to mix and match evolution lines, you can. If you want to use a pre-existing evolution line, and that's your choice, and you're okay with that, then by all means. If you want to make up some hyper bullshit, where, for example, your ending form is frickin' Venusmon here, if you want this to be your ending form, we can make that happen. Again, just please don't go Rule 34 with it, is all I request. Smab has done an amazing job with the artwork from my girl, and I couldn't agree more. Especially since she was under no obligation or need or request to really do any of them at first. She just was kind enough to do them, which was honestly outstanding, and she's been, to say kicking ass at it is such an understatement. Now, granted, it does help that if you're someone out there who's like, oh, okay, well, I don't really know what to tell Smab for artwork. Let me just tell you right now, there's a very simple trick to it. Be descriptive, don't be absurdly vague, and just kind of tell her what you think you would like that would sound cool. As long as the more you give her for info, for a mental image, for inspiration, the better and better you're going to get out. That's the reason why a lot of the artwork has turned out so amazing, is because we've made sure to give her plenty of info, plethora of detail, to give her the images, to give her the inspiration. So don't expect something if you don't give her that info, because that info is what helps to make it so that she pumps out the amazing, outstanding shit she has. Like, it's been amazing. Alright, when it comes down to it, honestly, when it comes to actual hard rules, there really isn't many, if at all, really. In fact, like I said, there's less rules than there was originally. Like I said, spirit, stat, gone. Trauma, gone. Stress, gone. Overall, having your Digimon and your human have separated stats, that's gone. Ultimately, what rules I have at it are very minimalist. Whenever you take a short rest, you gain half your health and half your spell slots back. When it comes down to potions, they're a bonus action. Elixirs, they're a bonus action. Jumping, bonus action. So, you do not need camp supplies to take a long rest, obviously. The biggest changes, though, has got to be to a specific class, though. To the Ranger. Ultimately, I have more or less taken the Ranger's Beastmaster and Drake Warden classes. I basically just shoved them into a blender and hit puree. Like, to the point of where they are now legitimately inseparable and are the same thing, one for one. The reason why that was done is just to make it less idiotic, and less punishing, and less stupid, and less poorly designed. But I digress. Basically, I made it so that this way, if you play as a Ranger or Beastmaster, you're not going to be costing any action, bonus action, free action. No, your animal's going to have its own freaking turn. It can either have your stats or its own stats. It itself is going to get special, like, skills, boosts, benefits, buffs, such, but so are you. Yeah, I really reworked hard the Beastmaster, brutally. But that's what it took to fix it. I did also, for Beastmaster, I did just remove the whole CR half limitation entirely. Instead, it would just start off as little tiny baby, and then as you would level, it would grow alongside you to become more stronger, instead of CR half garbage. So yeah, I did a lot to the Beastmaster. I butchered that bastard until it worked. The saddest part is I'm almost being literal. There were times where I felt like I needed a butcher's knife to speed up the process. Yeah. Now, when it comes down to stuff like dual wielding, I'm going to tell you right now, in case you haven't watched recently Valhallamon's entrance, I'm going to tell you right now, yes, I did outright ignore the rule of you can only dual wield light weapons. I basically took that out back and shot it. And I let my player basically dual wield 2 great swords. What am I hinting at here? Be ready for the rules of normal D&D to quite often be outright ignored, or in some cases taken out back and shot. Ultimately, I am about entertainment and fun first. Rules are great when they're not either a limitation or just unneeded. Some rules I just outright ignore because it's more entertaining and more fun to just let them go wild. Now, when it comes down to it, if you're someone out there who's like, but I want to use a gun in the game, you can use a gun. You can use a gun. Okay, you can. You can use pretty much whatever weapon that you want. Quite genuinely. There's no weapon limitations. There's no Digivolution limitations. If you want to have a similar Digivolution as one of the other two players, that's completely fine. That's completely fine. Now, if you're someone who's worried about backstory stuff, you don't need to give me tons. You don't need to give me a ton. You just need to give me name, a bit of a starting point, what they're like. If you have made a freaking discount mic channel, then I'm gonna need to know that bit, and I can pretty easily work from there. Give me any kind of personality descriptor, and I can pretty much expand onto it if the need be. Sure, I would love it if you expand on it yourself or make it as deep as you feel like you can. I would greatly appreciate that, yes. And as my players have been made repeatedly clear, I am not above tweaking, altering, adjusting, and expanding on shit en masse. As my players can very much attest, I will alter the shit out of it as much as need be. Love you, players. They're probably plotting my death, but who can blame them? From my girl, yes, with a smiling emoji. Yeah, I'm not above altering shite. A lot. Or that, yes, is because they're plotting my death. It could be both. It could be both. They could be plotting my death as well. And again, no one could blame them. Now, I know there's not many people here right now, but if anyone has any kind of questions, I would be more than happy to answer. To those of you who watch this after the stream is already up and you want to ask some questions, one of the easiest ways to reach me is through YouTube, by leaving a comment. I read those things. I do. Granted, my notifications doesn't always go off, so I might be late in responding to a comment, but I'll typically respond. And if you're someone out there who is considering joining and you're thinking, oh, but they're already at season 2, there's already been an introduction to one of the lords, there's still time for you to join in very easily and very effortlessly. Let me just tell you now. I'm not going to go into why, because there's no fun in spoiling. But by all means, you can jump in right now. You can jump into this game before the next session, and that will work out perfectly fine. It will. Now, I turn to you, my dear viewers. Questions? From my girl to you lot. Join us! Exclamation mark, sunglasses emoji. Yeah, especially since, not gonna lie, once we get to the 3rd and 4th season, they're gonna really love having the backup. Like, a lot. Kill God when? Question mark, question mark. That depends on you. But for the most part, it is at minimum of 5th season. At minimum. And that's if you decide to try to kill him. Whether or not you try to kill God, I think that's supposed to be a middle finger emoji. Basically the latest, or not latest, the earliest that would happen is 5th season. Whether or not that happens, I don't know. Like I said, if they do that, so far we got 1 vote for yes, kill God. Oh, it's a pointer. I'm going blind. Ah. And then from a girl, no exclamation mark laugh emoji. It's pointing up, babe. I'm blind. And now really awkward feeling. Oh joy. That's twice today. But yeah, that's basically the answer to the question. Is basically at the earliest it would be season 5 if they decide to do so. I have no clue if they're both going to do so, and I have no clue if we'll have a third player if they decide to go along with that plan as well. We would have to see. I have no clue why, but it's just my girl just spamming the heart thing. I think my girl's just spamming the heart thing now. Okay, yeah, the smiley faces, I have to assume, is probably also her. Yo. Great. It was me, God Slayer, all along. Wahahaha. And a laughing emoji. Someone from the future, help, I'm being bullied. Now that I'm promptly bright freaking red, for the love of God, let's continue on to any other questions that might be had. Please. From Smab, nah, you memed on. And then from my girl, love you. Ah. Okay. Questions, for the love of God. So, actual question. What would max PC count? Basically, I'd like to leave it at 3 to at 4. I am completely unwilling to go past 4. I'd like to keep it at 3 for at least. That's something we can also revisit in the future, but for right now, I know I'd like to make it at least 3, max 4. I'd prefer 3 if given a choice. The reason why is just because of a few multitudes of things popping off. One thing we can do is we can always change that player count when we're if we do another campaign. I can always increase the player count then pretty easily. And by then, I'll probably feel more confident with bigger numbers. I'm still just I still just kind of have always had a soft spot for a max 4. That's just a personal preference matter. I do know somebody who's done like freaking 7 players, but for me that's just too much. For me, that's just way too much to keep track of. I can't do that. I can do a max of 4, but like I said, I'd rather 3. If we wind up getting to people, that's perfectly fine. If we have to just jump to 4, that's not a big issue. I just don't want to go past 4 is my whole thing. Because like I said, for me, that'd be a little too much. Especially since in this campaign, there's already a lot of stuff I'm having to keep track of, both from a Digimon and a D&D and T-Pain's insane with his player numbers. Yeah, I mean, respect to Terra for being able to do such unhinged numbers. I can't. It's just too much for me. Especially even more so, like I said, in this, where there's already so much I'm having to keep track of. And so much I am having to memorize, tweak, alter, change outright at the drop of a pin. It's... If I were to try and do it with even half of his crazy-ass numbers, I'd break. I would begin to hate D&D. I would probably not be a DM. I would lose my mind. I would go absolutely effing mental. I would be in a freaking nut house. That's what it would do to my brain. And I already look like the image of insanity with my hair anyways, so I don't need the help. We still have another friggin' hour to kill, so technically I can keep answering questions the whole time, really, or until questions run out. So yeah, any other questions? Anything at all? And like I said, to any of you out there who have questions after this is, no longer a live stream and it's just a video, just simply put in the comments and I'll get to you as quick as I can, as long as my notifications don't be a dick. Again. And I am slowly regaining composure after the barrage of evils. Let me just... So, second question from session 1. How far have we gone off the main road? Not much, really. I think the farthest you've gotten off the road was... Actually, I don't think you've really gone off the main road at all. Now that I think about it. You've made the sessions harder on yourself, definitely, but you haven't really gone off the main road yet. To be fair, that's convenient. To be fair, it also... Well, the thing is that a lot of... We haven't really gotten to do many events, hasn't helped, truly. Now, that's not nobody's fault. It's just the way it wound up happening. Stuff came up and such. So we haven't really had a ton of chances for events. Probably the next event... If I had to make a blind guess, the next event might be like 2 sessions, maybe. And even then, that's going to largely depend on if the players even want to do events, really, or if they want to kind of have those things not be something they do much at all. If ultimately it seems like events aren't really like being taken much, what I'll probably do is I'll rework the entirety of events and rework them into the sessions and campaigns a little more, so that this way they're a little more integrated. I kind of wanted each event to kind of feel like its own like little separate, almost not movie, but kind of same vibe where it's not exactly directly attached to the overall arcing campaign, but still can provide info on how things are going. Yeah, basically, that's kind of their whole ideas. They're supposed to be like optional movies, special episodes. That really is what they're supposed to be like. The thing is that honestly, I've mostly let them just be optional, something that the players can ask to have, instead of me like outright enforcing them though, because they do have to want to do them first. If they're caught up in a moment, or if they're would rather just go down the actual story arc further, me forcing them to stop, take a beat, do these equivalency of movies or special episodes, I don't feel like forcing it's okay. I feel like that's something the players have to be willing to do. So that's why there hasn't really been many of them, as I'm basically not going to push them. When my players want to do one, I have multiples at the ready. Until then, I'm just not going to force it. I do not like forcing things on players in a genuine sense. Forcing my players to stop the progression that they're doing so they can do a basically movie/special episode thing. So besides Ranger, what has changed to other classes, if any? Honestly, there's really not much. When it comes down to Druid, I think that's probably the next most changed one, even though it doesn't have much. In Druid's case, instead of turning your full body into an animal, you would be changing parts. This would be due to you not being your full self, due to the fact that you would be inhabiting a Digimon. It's causing your Druid spells to kind of slightly, not misfire, but not manifest properly. Basically, that's the change that goes to Druid. Is basically, instead of just full body transformation, due to your weird state of being. Yeah, kind of. I think you missed an F, buddy. I think you missed the letter F. Yes, like a shitter. Shifter. Just like a shifter, you're only transforming really a piece. It's once you're no longer stuck as a Digimon and human, that's when you're going to be able to start like, okay, now I can access my full power, turn into a colossal bear. There's really no change to Barbarian or Fighter. Honestly, what changes exist for Wizards is solely in spells. Now that I realize we have like an entire hour to kill, I might as well go over some spells. I won't go into every single spell that has been tweaked, because that would be too long. But for example, there's Cordon of Arrows. Well, I've tweaked it so it's no longer destroying ammunition after use. I also made it so now it can be upcast to basically hit more often. Basically, upcasted, not only are you going to get hit for entering, but now you're also going to get hit for exiting. For overall damage, it increases by a die every time it's upcast. That's one example. Another example of a spell getting altered is that of Chromatic Orb. It no longer costs you your diamond, and now when it misses, it's doing half damage. It still has to roll to hit though, so there's still the chances of misses, but now it's no longer I've lost a diamond and I did nothing. Now it's I lost nothing, did half the damage though, which sucks. When it comes down to it, for Artificer, the only real change is just for the mechanical beast companion part, where you get a mechanical beast pet. In this case, I have not decided on if it just won't work the way you're intending it, or if it would not recognize you. I haven't decided on the catches with it, but basically, having that one, it either would have the beast not really realize that it's you fully, so it's like, the fuck you want? I haven't decided how that will go. I just know it won't be. It'll still work. It just won't be as easy because of the fact that you're no longer you. I think for classes that's pretty much it for changes really. Um, like there really isn't much of anything else really at all for changes. Um, I'm trying to think if there's anything I'm forgetting, and honestly, no, there's nothing I'm forgetting for once. So yeah. Any other questions? And I'm going to make sure that while I wait for the question to be asked, that everything is still running. Cool. Everything is still running and not on fire. Nice. How would a warlock patron work in this world? Or cleric, paladins, faith in gods? So, the thing is that faith in gods clearly doesn't have any issue because we actually have a player who actually is worshipping a god that's not from this world. Njord has been worshipped by our own dear Lucimon. Throughout this entire thing, it has even talked to her on occasion. Now, the thing is that honestly, they work plenty fine because even though this is... I argue this probably maybe breaks the world lore a little bit, but because I'm viewing as this connection between you two being something internal and not something as external, your connection to them isn't gone or severed. It's just I wouldn't say farther away. Basically, your connection is still fine and it has no actual negative thing here. I'll just blast all day. The friggin' channel your that divinity, my dudes. Channel away. There's no real negative impact. It's just now I'd say it's almost like they're distant, almost, is the way to view it. Because, like, we have Lucimon, who is a very devout and very important follower of Njord, the Norse god. And Njord is more at a distance than previously, is the overall way that manifests. It's kind of like a phone call. Long distance phone call, basically. There are times where the connection isn't very strong, so you kind of get some static and some like hard to hear bits, choppiness, stuff like that. If you're someone who wants to have their deity or patron have a bigger impact than, say, that of Njord, we can make that work. You gotta talk to me, though. Kind of like dial-up, yeah. Right now, basically the way it is right now is Lucimon's rocking dial-up internet. Yeah. That's basically her with Njord right now. In the cases of, like I said, Warlock, Cleric, Paladins, worst case scenario, it'd be kind of like that, where it's a little bit like dial-up. But if you want to have instead more of if you want it to have more of an impact, though, we just have to talk and make it work. The reason why I am having her stick with it as dial-up is because she's not a cleric or a paladin or a warlock. So I feel like this connection is due to, religious belief, praying, and not necessarily from I am claiming power from you. We are benefiting from each other or anything like that. That's basically the why. If she ever decides she wants to have Nior have more of a presence, have more of an impact, basically she would need to come talk to me about multi-classing into cleric, paladin, or warlock. That's basically the gist of it. There's a notification here. No. Anyways, if there's any other questions, by all means. And I shall double check stuff while I wait for responses. Still everything good. Nothing on fire. Good, good, good. Okay. So, while we wait for any other questions, I'm just going to remind, once again, just as a reminder, if you do want to ask questions when this is up, all you have to do is comment and I will get to you ASAP. As long as my notification doesn't mean a dick again, which happens a lot. Do you ever plan on having a world map created? So here's the thing: is I've actually tried to make a world map a few times, but dear God, did it go awful! Like, it was awful at the start and somehow got worse. I tried freaking I'm trying to remember her name, like some D&D Beyond map editing tool. I tried World Anvil. Dear God, did World Anvil not work in the slightest. Like, it was pretty much collapsing on itself and deleting everything that I would input as soon as I go to input something else. It's unfortunate, but unless some professional sees this video who has done map making before, decides to show pity on me and makes a map, it's not happening. Hello to our third viewer. So I might as well give a quick little overview of everything that's been said, because we've gone over a lot already. So, for when it comes down to rules, there really isn't many. There really isn't. Wait, what? Oh, duh. Said hello to the third person app. And from Shmaba, hello as well. You have two hellos, good sir. And while we wait for you to either respond or say hello to them as well, I will continue. Ultimately, a lot of stuff, instead of being adding a ton of rules, I actually just chopped off lots of rules. Originally, the rules, there was going to be trauma, stress, a new stat. I said hell no to all of that and got all of that. And the rules are very, very short, sweet, simple, minimalist. They really are. You don't need to know anything about Digimon. You don't need to know anything about Dungeons and Dragons. The only thing you need to know is things are going to get weird. We're going to have a good time. And that's it. That's literally all you need to actually hardcore know. Other than don't be a dick to people. Pretty easy conditions to meet, I say. Pretty easy rules. Ultimately, those are all the rules you really need to definitely know. Now, when it comes to D&D, you don't gotta worry about not knowing any of it. Smab is a badass teacher and has taught my girl far more and far better than I ever have in, like, years. So, you have the probably best D&D teacher you could possibly ask for, and if you need any Digimon knowledge, I, much to my own self-misery and begging for the opposite, am still a walking Digimon thesaurus here. I know too much. Anything you need to know about Digimon, you will be given. And anything you don't need to know, obviously we won't waste your time with. When it comes down to it, you can pretty much play as any fantasy race from D&D. You can pretty much play an alien or a human. It's entirely up to you. You can play as any class, any subclass you want, whichever sounds fun. Ranger Beastmaster has been taken from trash to actually worth a damn. It did take a lot of butchery and a lot of effort on my end to make it happen. A lot. Ultimately, this is very much not going to be mindset of rules above all. There are plenty of times where we actively throw away the rules for the sake of ensuring that fun and entertainment happen. Right now, there's only 2 players, so there's that. When it comes down to it, you can pretty much make your Digimon look however you want, Digivolve however you want. You want to use an existing canon Digimon evolution, you can. You want to go crazy, you can go crazy. I appreciate it. I love it. Also, this is the only hard thing is I'm going to have to really ask is that when our dear artist friend Smab does the artwork for your Digimon, please do not delete what work has been done. Just instead have the next form reflect whatever Digivolution changes happen. Digivolutions, there's a good number of them. There's Crest, there's Digimetal, there's Armor, there is Corruption, Death, and Biomerge. Biomerge and Crest are kind of weak at the start, but become really powerhouse after the fact. When it comes down to Corruption, it is all about allowing yourself to be corrupted, whether you're someone who's corrupted via evil light or darkness. You can basically still rock that, and basically how does it work is as you increase in corruption, you get better at dishing out damage and actually hitting people. When it comes down to the overall metal types, the armor and metal, those are all based off of the armor and based off of the metal. That also limits their benefits to going with them. When it comes down to Biomerge, it for first 3 forms is not going to be that much powerful, but once you're at the mega levels, when you're going to be having multiple ultimate moves to use. So that'll be pretty nice. When it comes down to death evolutions, for you, if you play that, death is your best friend and your weapon for one-sidedly anally taking everybody and having your way with them as violently as you want. Dying is good if you play as Death Evolution. Dying is beneficial. It very much is. Like, heavily so. Like, it is giving you stat boosts. It's giving you some tokens that when you get to a certain amount, you can cash in to Digivolve, Death style, and then you become stronger still. You would be starting off at the level of 2. That is just so this way you have time to kind of get a grips on the overall playing of D&D as a whole, as well as kind of getting used to the overall going back and forth between having to use Roll20 for your rolls and stuff like that, and using D&D Beyond to keep track of levels and stuffs like that. Don't worry about that at all, though, because, again, you have Smab, who is a badass teacher, like one of the best for teaching D&D. I cannot emphasize that hard enough. Now, when it comes down to how short rests work, those work by giving you half of your overall health back, as well as half of your spell slots. I can't remember if rounded down or up. I'd have to rewatch to see what our verdict was on that. On an upside, if you're worried about do I take notes, not really. You're going to have these videos to rewatch whenever you need to get a refresher on what's happened or going down. And I do advise that because that's going to help keep you up to date on everything. If you decide you don't like whatever Digivolution typing you're using at first, come talk to me and we'll change your typing. It's very easy. Very, very easy. No effort on my end. I have no problem with combos or trying to do like powerful setups. Come talk to me and I'll either try to make it so they happen quicker or happen easier. When it comes down to combat, you don't gotta worry about jumping in at level 2. I can easily make this work. Very easy on my end. Like, no time at all. If you do decide ultimately you would like to join and you have a backstory in mind, awesome. If it's not a big backstory, that's completely fine. It is effortless for me to expand, tweak, or enhance with no effort on my end. Don't believe me, ask my players sometime. They'll tell you I've done a lot. I've expanded quite a bit. Ultimately, you don't have to give me a ton for it. You don't. And honestly, if you're worried about, do I have to know Digimon at all? No, you don't. I need to know Digimon because I'm the DM. You don't need to know a damn thing. You don't need to know anything. That's just the genuine fact of it. Ultimately, if you are someone out there who's stuck around, for my girl even, true, if you're stuck around this long, I do hope you consider it. I do hope that if you are interested, you do reach out either here and now or sometime through YouTube. You can reach out to me directly or you can reach out to Smab. I will say that for me, just leave a comment and I will try and get you up and running this very season even. No, really, it's that easy to get you shoved in. Like, it's not going to be any real hard effort on my end to get you set up and running. Hell, if you do decide to join up, there's another cool thing we can do to make it even more entertaining and almost tantalizing to do as well. We can even set it up so this way, the way you show up, the way you join the overall group is through an event we could do. We could do an event. We could do that, and that will allow you to jump in, but I'll also give you the chance, like, okay, before we get into anything from my girl, it would be awesome to have more players. I couldn't agree more, especially it'd be great to have at least one more, especially since, while it's not requested, something to balance out the two crazies would be great. Because we have abject rebellion, and then we have slowly becoming tainted by rebellion. Yeah. An extra player would probably be a good idea. Because I foresee them doing what they've been doing probably for the rest of the campaign, which is making it harder on themselves. So having a third player for them is going to be very beneficial and very helpful. They'll probably resort into far, far less gray hairs. Ooh, yes, you. Now, if you're someone who's worried about, do I really have to understand all of this and have it all mastered early on? No. No, you don't. You literally do not need to have any of this stuff mastered at all. You don't. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're someone who I'm just going to reiterate this. As long as you don't go outright hentai Rule 34 stuff, if you want to freaking have your Digimon look like this. Hello? Wrong button. There we go. If you want to look like this, we can easily make that happen. You want your Digimon to be a bit more on the risque adult side, we can do that as long as it doesn't go outright to porn. You want your Digimon to look like a mountain man, a beefcake, we can make that happen. Again, just as long as we stop before porn. It's pretty easy to make work. And while I would greatly prefer and appreciate it if you went with your own made-up Digimon just for the sake of you not being limited, either creatively or in overall way you want to play the character, that's my only request. Is I don't want you feeling limited. I want you to feel like I got to play whatever Digimon I wanted. I got to make them look how I want and be how I want. I got to have my Digimon my way. I want you to feel that because I want you to have that creative freedom. So, dear third individual, you've been quiet so far, but now I turn to you. Do you have any questions? Anything at all. And I do mean anything. And I will wait. Question from Smab, not the third individual. Question. So you say no to homebrew, but isn't my ULT move a form of homebrew? So what has that making the cut? So are some homebrew attacks allowed as long as the DM and player collab on it? Pretty much, yeah. That's a good summary for it. Basically, one, we have to talk about it because there are some homebrews that I myself cannot go with. And that's homebrews where it's like, let me try to think of an example here. Basically, any homebrew that has you doing 15,000 damage in one turn, no. But the homebrew where it's, not only is it collabed on, but the thing is that the overall old move itself is completely fair and balanced. It's not game breaking. That's my whole thing. Collabing on it is something that does have to happen for many things, just because that helps to make sure that not only does everything function properly, form properly, get set up properly, but if I'm made aware of some really powerful thing you want to do, then I'm made aware so I can either make it happen earlier or make it happen easier. I can't do that if we don't talk about whatever it is you're trying to ultimately accomplish. So that's kind of the ultimate reasoning on why homebrew for alt attacks is fine, is because collabed on it and it's not busted AF. It's not 1 million damage in a single movement, in a single turn. That's basically the reason. Right. To said third viewer, if you don't have any questions, that's completely fine. But like I said, if you have any questions, you are more than welcome to ask. I've been answering questions already. I clearly have no issue with it. Even if it's a question that might sound either dumb or sound silly, I will still answer it with all sincerity. Kind of one of my few talents. Like I said, please feel free to ask no matter what you might think of the question itself, whether the question is silly or not. I will answer it wholeheartedly and give you a sincere answer, no matter what. And in the meantime, while we wait for you to decide on if you would like to ask a question or not, to you two, any other questions? Anything at all? In the meantime, I will also make sure nothing's on fire. Why the flask? So there might be a misunderstanding for this, and for that, I'm going to correct right now. Every time I whip out the flask, that is not a bad thing. Okay? That means my players have made me proud. Every time I whip out that flask, I'm proud. Because my players have either done something bonkers, done something completely nonsensical, or something completely out there. Or have endangered themselves. And therefore have made me proud. I actually love chaos, and I especially love it when my players do something just absolutely mental. Like, I have so many favorite moments, but just to name a few of them, I love the moment, like, one of my favorite moments for Smab early on was, let's weaponize this very clearly evil dark energy. Let's just weaponize that. No, there's no purpose for it. No, there's no reasoning for it. Let's just see what happens. Oh, I love that moment. I do. I love that moment. I love those moments where my players do something just bad shit. Like, I love those moments. Those are my favorite moments every time, is where my players do something honestly unhinged. I can't. Even moments that are small, like freaking Lucimon, while freaking carrying bordering on unconscious Plasmon, carrying Plasmon up and then down a wall in front of all these people who they've already done this to already. I love that moment because it's freaking unhinged. You've already pissed them off doing this once. Doing it again, really? And you know there's stairs. Oh, I love those moments. They're just great. They're the best. I love them. But yeah, that's the whole purpose for the flask. Is basically it's kind of just me showing my pride in my players. Every time I have to whip out that flask, every time I do, it's just a good moment. And before you ask, do you have to necessarily match their insanity? No, you don't have to. You really don't. If you choose to, then by all means. Plasmon corrupts absolutely, and that is absolutely true, as we have seen recently from climbing up and down the wall carrying a Plasmon. I will say, I do hope. What was it like to activate the flask? What you did a few sessions ago? I'm not sure how to feel about it to this moment, and yeah. Anyone who tells you I am an infallible DM has lied severely. I forgot one of the most basic rules of DMing. Don't make your players roll if you're not ready for the consequences of them failing that roll. Yeah. I don't think I'll let myself live that down. 2 decades even? For my girl, one of us. Yes. It was just embarrassing, honestly, to forget that role. It was just so embarrassing. Oh, and third player left. Back to back to back to back to back to now one. Or real low rolls. Like, yeah. I. Yeah. That was rough. Yeah. And we're now back down to those 2. And our time is almost up. We got 11 minutes left. So, to my dear viewers, aka players, any other questions? Anything at all? So, how would multi-classing work in the game? So, honestly, it depends on what you multi-class into, really. If you decide to go into Paladin, Cleric, or Warlock, I'm going to have you interact with chosen deity / patron. That's basically how that would work. When it comes down to multi-classing into something like Barbarian or Monk, it'd basically just be a kind of a flavor deal, really. If you go to a fighter, pretty much a flavor detail as well. Nothing really. There's no real thing that can stop you from doing it or from limiting you on what you can choose. It's just what flavor stuff and stuff that gets added will change depending on what you've chosen, basically. Other than that, it's completely unaffected, really. Completely left alone. We've gotten quite a lot of questions from Schmab. We'll see if Schmab can come up with more questions. But in the meantime, I'd like to see if my dear Freya, sweetheart, darling, do you have any questions? Anything at all? And it can be something silly if it sounds silly to you. Just a question in a generalized sense. And she is probably not happy that I have engaged her brain. And while we wait for hopefully 2 questions, one from my girl and possibly one more from the Smabsy, I shall make sure that everything is working fine, nothing is on fire. Let's see. Cool, cool. Nothing on fire. Check. Good, good. And now we wait. And I'm being weird. Not that I can think of. I'm pretty much chilling here. If a player knows Digimon, could they pre-Digidestin like Takato or Tai? Yeah, they could. They can definitely, if they so choose. I would appreciate if they didn't, just because I don't want them feeling like they have to limit themselves to the way Takato or Tai would do things, or their evolution lines, or really any of that stuff. I would greatly appreciate if even if they have that, knowledge, I would greatly appreciate if they didn't, just for the sake of not limiting themselves. If they ultimately decide that they don't mind the limitation and that they want to play as these 2 exact characters or as their exact evolution lines, that is fine. That is fine by me. I just don't want them feeling limited, because they can. I cracked a joke about this early on, but basically, if someone wants to, they are totally. It is almost appreciated even. They can completely play as a Gomamon who digivolves into a Greymon, into a Magna Angemon, and then is a Malomyotismon at Mega level. No, really. I am not going to impose any limitations. Fear the greatness that is Joe. Yeah, they can, if they do know it and they do want to play as that, they can. It's just I would rather they have no limitations on them, is all. Like, whether it's Digivolution line or character-wise, I don't want them to feel limited or backed into a corner or feel like they have to do or say or play the way a certain character would or does. To me, having that kind of forced limitation just isn't fun sounding. That just sounds like torture. So yeah. Well, we still have another 6 minutes. So, any other questions? I would love it if my girl came up with a question despite her being here to chill. But, what if custom descendant child of said characters? That is perfectly fine, because then you're not like limited to how that character is, and we can always make that work really interestingly for a story beat really easily, whether that be as an event or through the actual mainline campaign. Actual question, sweetie. An actual question, not that. Um, any other questions? Actual questions. I can already feel myself turning red. Great. That is a question? That was a question. The world must know. Knock it off. Digimon related questions, please. Digimon D&D related questions, please. Specifically, Digimon or Digimon D&D related questions, please. Questions, Digimon D&D, please. Just that. And now I'm stuck. Yeah. Favorite Gen 4 Digimon? I think JP. Probably JP. Or JB. I'm now forgetting the letters. Oh no. Now I have to look that up. Bastam. I hope I have the right name, or I shall die of embarrassment. JP, cool. And yes, I do realize the irony in the fat dude being my favorite. I do realize the comedic irony in that, believe me. But yeah, for me, JP, mostly just because foodie, and also I love Beetlemon. I always kind of thought he was cool. The more you know. Although, I'm not going to lie, out of all Digimon of all existence, Devimon, every single time. Anytime, every time, all the time. Alright, we have 2 minutes left. I'm going to say one last question. Anybody? Digimon related. Did you just say booty? I don't think so. But my English suck, so it could be. But since that's not a Digimon related question, again, Digimon, Digimon or Digimon D&D related question, please. Ugh. Next event, when? Question mark. Well, largely decided on you, the players, on when. Because again, I will not enforce events at all. Those things are optional things you have to be wanting to do. Also, if we get a new player, we might do an event literally this Tuesday, if that be the case. But that will be heavily dependent on if we do get a third player. If we get a third player, then this Tuesday will be an event instead of an actual full-on campaign. Will we fight a BBEG of a past session? Not right now. Sorry. Crap in my... Yeah, as of right now, there's no intent to do so for this session or this season, really. I can't promise about the future. Because I do have a plan. I'm not planning anything. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a complete innocent pure boy. Yeah, you guys better hope you find that third person. So, yeah, ultimately, that is the end of this live stream. I'm season of Gen. When are we fighting the next Lord? Sooner than you'd like. Sort of. I have plans. Hence the evil. Cursed the keep boades. Yeah. No. Yes. For what it's worth, plans are happening and are had. They will happen soon. It will not be easy. If you're wanting that third player, I'd start begging while you can. Will I enjoy my day? Yes, I'm going to be going to a movie with family in a couple hours. So yeah, I'm going to have a good time. Alright. To my victims, I mean players. I hope you guys have enjoyed this live stream. I hope you guys are excited for Tuesday. If you're wanting to avoid, if you want that third player, I'd heavily advise like some hard pimping. Like if at this point, in my girl's case, if you can convince family, I would, and I'd do it quick. Because things are going to get spicy. Fear the underdogs. Yes. If anyone should be afraid, though, it would be the players this time around. Because I got something for them. I got something fucked up. I can't wait. So yeah, if an event is wanted, either it has to be requested or a new player has to be found. Evil Laughter. Wait, what? Oh yeah, yeah. This is gonna be much. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot. So yeah, if I were you, I'd go hunting for that player. Start bribing, blackmailing, begging family, whatever you got to do, because it's going to be muchness. But that is for my players to suffer through. Deal with. And I will see you all very soon. Hopefully, those of you who are interested in joining, who are considering it, please do reach out, and we will get you up and running immediately. It won't be very hard. See you all